Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for the AAVIP Virtual Business in Brief Mini Conference and AGM. AAVIP is an association that is member-driven and a not-for-profit association that depends on its members to operate. Operating a home-based or virtual business can be quite isolating, as we know, and we often have no one to support us when things go wrong and little day-to-day encouragement. So as an Australian association, we are here to support you. We can also represent your interests to funding bodies, government and non-government decision makers and keep you informed and abreast of any legislative or other changes likely to affect your business. I've popped our website link on the screen. Please copy it down and you can sign up online. Now I'd like to introduce you to Rosie Shilo. For those of you who know her, she's fantastic and she's presenting us today with top 10 things your prospect needs to know to invest in you. I'll change this presentation, Rosie, and I'll pass it over to you.
Great. Thank you very, very much. I was just sitting there going kind of cross-eyed looking at the AAVIP logo, which is very cool, by the way. And I absolutely second everything that you said about the institution. It's really, really great. And it's something that I think more VAs need to tap into. So it's really good and an honour to be able to present to you all today through this great organisation. There is, as you all know, the chat panel on the left-hand side of your screen. And if you have any questions, please pop them in there. I will keep an eye out. So today I'm going to be looking at the top 10 things your prospect needs to know to invest in you. And they're not brain surgery. I'll give you that straight up. But they're things that I'd really love you to jot down and perhaps keep somewhere prevalent around your desk, on whether it's on your whiteboard or your corkboard or blue tack to the wall, just to remind you to consider these points whenever you're responding to job leads or responding to an inquiry of any kind. Okay? So to start with, I'd like to introduce myself. It's really great to get a professional photo done where no one can really see your face, but that's my true style there. That's a picture of myself. I'm not even a redhead anymore, but with my daughter Ruby. And the reason why I use that photo is because it's definitely a juggle running a business with little ones around. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. And I really love being able to do that, and that's why I've set up these businesses. So I'm the owner of Virtually Yours, which is a virtual assistant network. It's predominantly to support virtual assistants to connect and to collaborate and to, reduce isolation basically, just to build those relationships, because I think together we are a lot stronger. We can do a lot more together. There's the added bonus that it also has job leads, so we encourage business owners to come to us and request contacts from VAs who have the right skills and availability to support them. I also run the Australian Virtual Business Network, which was set up a few years ago by Lynn Prowse-Bishop, and I took that over, I think, 2 years ago. Gosh, time flies. And that is basically, it's not so much of a network where there's a lot of collaboration going on. It's more an area where people can go to register as a certified Australian virtual business that has great history, proven skills, references, all that sort of thing, just to prove to their audience or their clients that they really know what they're doing, and they're at a really elite level of running their business. My own VA business used to be Virtually Yours, but then transferred everything across to my husband's business, which is Webtastic Design, and together we provide web development and design services as well as hosting and domain names. And because, I've got nothing better to do with my time, I'm co-editor of today's VA magazine, with originally with Renee Chapman, but now with Monique Brugman, and owner of Harmony Hunters, which is basically just a blog for articles around trying to balance being a business owner and being a parent. I'm really, really proud author of Vava Voom, How to Be an Amazing Virtual Assistant and Every Client's Most Valued Asset, which I will be getting my second print proof tomorrow. And if that's all good, then hopefully we'll be posting out these books to people in the next week or so. So I'm very, very excited about that. And I keep busy. So I just want to ask a couple of questions of the audience here. How many years have you been in business? If you could just pop that into the chat panel, it'll really help me with delivering the right content for you. Okay. We've got 5, 5, 8, 9 months. Yep, 1 year in business, but EA for 20 plus. Must have started when you were 5. 4 or 5 months in business. Really broad range there. That's fantastic. Does anyone not put it in? I know there's a couple more people there. I'll keep an eye out. And how many clients do you have on average usually? So if you've been in business like Liz for 8 years, you've probably got quite a lot. You're welcome to put an estimate or 20 plus or what have you, just to give me an idea of how big your business is in terms of who you're catering to. How many clients you've converted? 20 plus, that's awesome. 5 to 10, very good. Okay, Louise, cool, yep, that's a lot. 5 is a lot for how long you've been doing your business. Not enough, Robbie? Yep, cool. Still new. And same for Maddie. You guys are still new, so hopefully today will help you out. And what's the greatest difficulty you've found with getting clients across the line so far? Indecision, yeah. We'll touch on that right at the end. Getting the right type of client is so important. Explaining how VA can help them, yep. I'm trying to do a lot more presentations on that to try and better educate just businesses in general. So if you know anywhere where they would be happy to hear me speak, let me know. Yes, Susan, that's so common. If they're really busy and they need you more than anything and they are just too stuck with handing anything over. And yeah, that fear of delegation. Really, really great responses. That's very, very handy for me. Okay, let's have a look. So the first one is pretty obvious, okay? So excellent, thanks, Karen. You need to be able to show to them that you can do the job, all right? That you're great at what they're asking you to do in that first instance, and you have resources to help you fill any gaps. So if there are gaps, for example, a lot of you are on Virtually Yours, if you see a job lead come through and it's a pretty comprehensive one where they kind of want someone who does a bit of everything, if you can pull out key parts of that and say to them, this is something that I am completely confident with, and there are other areas here where I definitely have the resources to be able to pull it all together, that is great. If you say I'm awesome at all of the above and there's 10 requirements there, it's going to sound a little bit odd to the client because nobody is fantastic at a huge amount of things. I don't care who you are, they're just not. And there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, these are the areas that I don't have a huge strength in, but this is the area I do. But my resources, have faith in your resources. My resources are available to make sure this all gets done. And that's why networking online and offline is so absolutely important, because then you can feel really confident. I know that when I am responding to someone who wants me to do some web stuff for them and they want some, let me see, copywriting done or some really high-end design done, I have absolutely no issue whatsoever saying, yep, we can get that done for you. We have a great copywriter we can call on, and we have a couple of different designers that we can call on depending on what sort of feel and vibe you want, because different designers have different strengths. And same with the writers, actually. We've got a couple of writers, because web design's our main thing, we've got a couple of writers on board who can really help them grab that right tone and feel for their site. The other thing is when you have access to really great marketing coaches or business coaches and you're having those issues where they're hesitating to delegate or they're really not sure what to pass over, and you say, okay, that's great, I can see that you need a lot of help here. It's probably really starting to frustrate you, so let them know that you can relate. I can either have a chat with you about what we can do first, or if you feel like it's too big and you're not ready to do that with me yet, I can recommend a couple of coaches, if you like, who I've worked with, who are really great at helping you unpack all of the jumble that's in your head so that you can feel clear about which bits to move forward with. So if you say things like that, because you've got a great network around you, they're feeling confident that at the end of the day, you can do the job. Does that make sense? Yes. Well, I like capitals. Capitals are good. Now, you also obviously need to have the right equipment. When it comes to transcription type work, when it comes to design type work, when it comes to reception type work, so many things there where you have to have the right equipment. So don't dive in there for a client that is in a rush, wants to get things done, knowing that you haven't got the equipment there to help them. You've used the programs before and you know how to deliver the results. So you need to give them the confidence to feel that you tick all 4 of these boxes. Okay. Now, sometimes you're going to have job leads that come through where you have not used the program because it's a custom program, or it's a program that's very similar to one that you use but you haven't used it yet. And again, it's just about giving them the confidence that you are going to be able to work your way around it, ask the questions that you're going to need, get the help that you're going to need, and really, focus on learning it in such a way that you're going to be able to help them in a huge, huge way in their business. Okay, number 2, you're available. I know that sounds really simple, but if your availability, there's 2 areas here that I want to look into. One, that you're available to do the job now and in the future. So think about, and this is where you need to communicate with that client, think about the long term for that client. So for example, if I need someone to help me with managing my database or managing some enrollments for my students, I want to know that they're not going to just be available now and that they're going to start allocating those hours to other people further down the track because, somebody else has come in with more hours or something like that. It's very, very frustrating if you have, someone who isn't setting aside time for that particular job when they have agreed to. So the most important thing there is being clear about what the expectations and the goals are for the client and for yourself. So if the client is saying, okay, I want to be able to, at the end of the day, not even think about these student enrollments. I'll know that they're going through. I don't know how often they're going to come through, but they will come through, say 5 or 6 times a month. I want to know that that's going to be done. So as the VA, you need to work out what you need to do to make sure that you're going to be available for that and give them the confidence. Now, the other thing is the availability in terms of during the day. So some people I know work around school hours in terms of they drop their kids off at school in the morning, they come into the office, they probably get back in around 10-ish, and they have to finish up around, excuse me, around 2:30 or so. I'm not sure what time school finishes these days, to pick up the kids, and then they might work in the evening or they might not. That can work beautifully for some clients and others it can't, and you just need to make sure that you're really clear on that, what's going to work for them and what's not. Some jobs you need to be there, as some of you know, I know some of you have done reception type services, you need to be there at set hours, and other jobs, as long as you get that job done by the end of the week, for example, or the end of the day, it doesn't matter what time you do it. So again, it's just being really clear about your availability and their expectations around that availability. Any questions? Hopefully I'm not talking too fast. Oh, I like that, Susan. Louise, great. Louise says, I wish clients were as clear on their needs. When they're not clear on their needs, you need to stop, step back and work out. That's awesome, Jodie. I'll look at that in a sec. You need to stop, sit back and work out what the gaps are for you and what the gaps are for the client, and identifying to the client what those gaps are. So if you said, I've had, for example, someone who helps me with web stuff, and I said, I really want my website to do blah, 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 and she said, well, there's too many gaps in there. Until you work out what those gaps are and you know exactly how to get from A to B for people visiting your site, I can't help you. So sometimes, and you know, saying it nicely is good, but sometimes it's just a case of letting them know that there are too many gaps, and where possible, highlighting where they can go to fill those gaps, whether it's having a better conversation with you, or as I said before, having a chat to a coach or their business partner, or you know, someone that will help them with marketing or whatever it might be, depending on what the gap is. It might very well be a financial gap, or it might be a software-related gap. You know, they can be in any form, excuse me, form at all. So it's about not saying, oh God, this is what I've been given and there's so many gaps. It's about saying, oh hi, that's fantastic. I can see where you're heading, but there are a few gaps there, and for me to be able to deliver this properly for you, we're going to need to address those. Louise, you just need to say to them, look, I can fill those gaps for you, but they're going to be filled with my content, and that's a risk. Do you really want that? If they do, get it in writing. Jody, I think sometimes you're afraid you'll lose a client if you don't agree to everything. I reckon Liz would be the same with me here, and pipe up if you are, Liz. If a client says to you, bark like a dog, hop on one foot, and you say no, and they say, well, I'm not going to work with you anymore, is that going to upset you? Because if I don't agree to everything, it's because I don't agree. There's a reason why I don't agree. And I shouldn't agree to something I don't agree with just to keep a client. If the client is not a human being who can see around or see a solution to this difference in opinion, that's right, Susan. You'd have another look at your target market. If you're consistently finding clients that are making you hit your head against the wall or making you put yourself in positions where you're not feeling vibrant and confident, they're not your target market. There's one thing that everybody should have in common, and that is that their target market makes them feel really good. So if your target market or the people that you're attracting are not doing that, there's something wrong with the way you're marketing, because you're attracting the wrong people. And often what happens is when you're scared to lose clients, you're going to attract the people who can see that and are based entirely on cost. And then once they've worked out that they can get you as cheap as possible, they want you to do everything. Please don't go there. Please, please, please. It's not worth it. Yeah, that's right. Robbie's perfect. Clients appreciate and respect your professionalism when you establish some boundaries. It's really important. I've been in business where I've just stopped and said to someone, or all of my clients, hey, guess what? I know I'm not providing these services so well anymore because I'm not excited about them. This is the sort of service that I want to now offer. These are the products I'm now offering. And the clients who I love went, sweet, I'll find that kind of work for you. They're my ideal clients, the ones who do what I want them to do for me. So it's about finding clients that I did an interview just recently, just off tangent, and it's in the Baba Boom book actually. And one of the things we talk about is how to find your ideal client. And it's not really about, you know, finding the magic person who ticks all the boxes. It's about finding the person who makes you look awesome, the person who brings out the best in you when you're providing services, because not everybody does. And if they bring out the best in you when you're providing your services, then you're going to look and sound amazing, and they're going to love you. So look for those people. Does that help? Yeah, it is. Yeah, cool. All right, on the same tangent, number 3 is that you're honest. And this is, you know, kind of what we were touching on then, where you're clear about what can and can't be done, setting those boundaries and expectations. And when you do that with confidence, oh, can you not hear me? Can you all hear me? Yep, Louise. Okay. Perfect. Susan, can you just check in with Louise for me? That would be really cool. So setting those boundaries, you have that first conversation with them and you're confident about what you will and won't do, how your service is delivered, you will set yourself up for success and you'll set yourself up for clear, honest communication with that client. All right, lovely, Susan. For an example, I was having a meeting with a client. He ended up being that particular person ended up being a complete nightmare, but the client themselves, the group, it was an institution, were fantastic. And I said that they were going to be on a retainer. And I said, you need to pay for the retainer at the start of the month. And because, because next month will be the first month, you need to put that money down before I get started. And he was saying, well, how do we know that we can trust you to do the work? Why should we have to do it that way? And I just smiled. This is a face-to-face meeting. I said, because that's how I work. I don't know you from a bar of soap, and this is how my business works. I'm not doing work for nothing, but I will absolutely do the work that I need to do. So to get started, this is how my business is structured, and this is how we need to move forward. And he just gave me a big smile like, yeah, you passed that test, and off we went. So sometimes it is a little bit of a test to see whether you've got boundaries, and excuse the terminology, but whether you've got walls. At the same time, you can be honest. If you're honest about what you can and can't do and about what you require of the client, you also need to be honest about when things go wrong and when things are gone wrong because of you or by the client. So, for example, in that particular case, I had to stand up to the committee and say, look, I'm really sorry, but the treasurer here doesn't understand GST and is reporting back incorrect errors and reporting that my numbers are all wrong. And until this is addressed, I do not want to be providing further services. I had to do that face-to-face in a meeting. I was very honest about it because I couldn't keep going forward with someone saying, everything you're doing is wrong, everything you're doing is wrong, when in that particular case it wasn't. I could say to them, look, bookkeeping's not my forte. I lost confidence when he was questioning the numbers I was giving. So with your permission, I got a really, really skilled bookkeeper to come in and have a look. She provided a report and the treasurer again challenged everything she said. So again, the books, we cannot keep doing them because it's just going to end up being a dogfight. The rest of the committee really, really respected that. Obviously the treasurer didn't, but it was a volunteer committee and the treasurer, he didn't understand that if you paid more GST than you charged that you would get a refund. He thought we were trying to rort the system. And in that particular case, because I'd been honest right from the get-go, if I was going to stand up and say, hey, this isn't working, I don't want to, be aggressive or anything like that, but this particular structure is not working, or this particular piece of software is not working, or I've botched up this bit over here, just being honest is going to really, really help your client. So be honest from the start. I'm not a big believer in saying, yes, I'm awesome at doing something and then working it out later. I would personally rather say, I haven't got a huge amount of experience with that yet, but what I'm going to do is spend the next couple of days having a look at it, and I'll report back to you about how I feel about it after that, so that you've got complete confidence in me. That's just my style. It doesn't have to be your style, but that's my style. Excuse me. If I ever have an error that is caused by myself or one of my team, I really, really like to try to go back to the client with a proposed solution. So never go to the client with just a problem. Always go with the problem and a potential solution. Okay, just as an aside. Now, being a great communicator is so, so important because of the virtual aspect of what you're doing. There's, apart from when you're on Skype, and even then it's delayed, so it's all a little bit weird, you don't have that body language and those facial expressions. I mean, you should see the faces that I'm pulling when I'm talking to you right now. It would change how you feel about how I'm presenting. I'm not pulling faces at you, by the way, but, it just adds certain communication to that correspondence. So you need to be able to let the client feel confident that you can be contacted at reasonable times and that you'll get back to them in reasonable time. I know you've all faced clients that expect you to drop everything for them here, there and everywhere, out of hours, during hours, and it's just about being clear about what is a normal turnaround time for you. Again, it's about finding your ideal client. For me, sometimes I'm going to be able to respond straight away because I'm in the office and I was checking emails anyway, or you know, the situation just proves that way. Other days I'm not in the office, I'm with my daughter, and I'm not going to be able to respond straight away. So if I have a client who needs me 5 days a week, that's not my ideal client because they're going to be disappointed at least 2 out of 5 days every single week. It's just not a good way moving forward. You can provide regular updates. I'm experienced with this myself where I'm not sure whether the VA I hired is actually doing the work I need or not because it's ongoing maintenance. So if it's a job where they say, okay, can you format this document and get it back to me, or can you create this file and get it back to me, it's very easy to know if it's been done or not. But when you're doing ongoing maintenance type work, whether it's marketing or managing emails or systems or anything like that, please excuse my coughing, it's very, very hard for the client to know that it's being done, even if it's, you know, in a system that they can log into. It's better to remember to give them, whether it's weekly or fortnightly updates, to remind them that things have been done. This is where we've moved. We've made this many updates, or we've had this many responses. Just give them an idea because it's their business, and at the end of the day, a business owner wants to know the snapshot of everything that's happening in their business. They don't need to know all of the details, but personally, I need to be able to see in my mind's eye exactly what's going on, well, not exactly, but an overview of what's going on everywhere. Otherwise, I feel really blind, and it's really uncomfortable, makes me stressed, and then I lose faith. So that's, you know, my perspective as a client. You communicate any changes or hurdles as soon as possible. I know that you've all faced hurdles before, whether you've underquoted or you've estimated the time wrong, so it's going to take you a lot longer than you thought, or a solution that you thought might work isn't going to, or someone you thought might be available to help you with something is not. Just let the client know as soon as possible. The more time, the earlier you tell them, the more time you've got to remedy the situation or, you know, have a new plan of attack. And any time that you're communicating on behalf of the client or to the client, you need to be professional. Now, everyone knows that I always speak freely and have fun with people, but at the end of the day, you won't hear me, you know, swearing and cursing or, you know, sitting here speaking to a client, bagging people out or anything like that, because I want them to know that when I'm in business mode, I am professional and I'm approachable, but I'm, you know, I'm someone that they can trust. So you need to make sure that when you correspond with them in that initial conversation, that you're doing so professionally. You can get a feel for them about how casual you can get, but even when they become a friend later on, if they're paying you to do something, when it's related to work, you've got to keep a certain level of professionalism happening. Otherwise it can get very, very messy and very confusing because those boundaries are going to get very, very blurred. Okay, so each of these points kind of pushes on from the one before it. When we're talking about being professional, I mean, we've mentioned it before with some of the questions that you asked, about communicating professionally even though things can go wrong, but those boundaries are about invoicing when you say you will, having integrity around issues like late payments. So if you have an agreement in place where you invoice them at the end of the month and they pay you within 14 days, make sure you follow up. I mean, I'm not the best person at paying on time because I just get lost, but I love reminders. It sounds crazy, but I love it when I get reminders so I can get back on top of it. Make sure you're really clear with the client about what your expectations are, how many times you will follow up before you stop work, if you will do that at all, meaning the follow-up bit. So if, excuse me, if if it's gone a month and they haven't paid that invoice and you're still doing more work for them, it's not coming across as professional as you might think. What you need to do is after a certain point, which is what you've got in your agreement, this is a step that we will take after invoicing. At a certain point, we will send a final notice and we will cease work until that has been paid. It sounds like you're being really, I don't know, bossy, or I can't think of the word, but you're actually just being professional and being clear about the fact that you are running a business. Not a lot of businesses will give you credit. And that you have systems in place. So the fact that you're invoicing at all shows that you've got a system, and the fact that you follow up with your invoice shows you have a system. To me, I see with tradies a lot of the time are terrible at following up invoices and things like that. And then they wonder why they don't have cash flow, and then they can't get things done, they can't build on their business. And then, everything starts to get really messy, and it doesn't look professional purely because there's a couple of systems that need to be put in place, that need to have their attention. Number 6 is that your priority is to seek improvement and success. This is what makes you stand out from the offshore VAs. This is one of the biggest things that you have in your arsenal for your clients, and it is what excites your clients. If you are letting your clients see that you are going to be looking for better ways for them to do things, and that you keep doing that, don't lose interest. Keep doing it. Keep looking for better ways to do things. Streamline things. Don't think about less hours for you because you've streamlined it. There'll be more work because if you streamline things, they'll get more clients. Just think about it in terms of what you would want a VA to do for you. Personally, I want my VA to make things work better for me. That makes me very excited. I want my VA to take pride in my success. I know that behind every business there's a lot of boring admin. Doesn't matter how exciting the business looks at the front, at the back end there's a lot of admin that looks pretty similar from one business to another. I'm sure there are people who work in admin at Virgin who are just as excited about their admin as a company, as an administrator working for Optus. Because at the end of the day, those systems need to be in place, and processes need to be worked on constantly to make it so that that excitement at the front end is maintained. So it's very easy, I think, for people to lose the passion that they might have when they first get a client. So please think about how you are going to be able to maintain your passion. And sometimes it's just about having a monthly catch-up with them to talk about what their new goals are. Make sure you're really in touch with what they want to achieve. And feel free, if there's the right sort of client, they're going to be happy for me to make suggestions as well. Did you know that there's a possibility you could run this webinar because you've written that book, blah, 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 and they think, oh my God, I wouldn't even know where to start. We go, well, I know what to do, so it's all great. Let's start working on that, and we'll set a timeline for it, and everyone's now excited because there's a new project to do, and it keeps things exciting. But if you lose that passion for their success, the client will know it pretty quickly. Has anyone had that before, where they've done work for a business where they thought, this sounds so exciting, and then they've started working for it and they get really, really bored? Come on, VAs, you can type faster than that. Not yet? That's good. Yeah, okay. Well, as a client, I've seen it happen once, Susan said. Came close recently, but changed the work doing so. That's exactly, what you need to do. You've got to mix it up and change it. Robbie, I tried to help the business improve and had them decide not hiring. So did you help them move forward with that, even though that was the end result? Susan, feel free to share your one if you want to. They didn't want it done. Sounds like a plan, Susan. Well, if they don't want things done, that's fine. I think sometimes it's hard to maintain that enthusiasm if you can see lots of potential for improvements and they keep on rejecting it. That can be really, really hard. And again, that works out, in terms of, okay, well, what are the pros and cons of working with this client? Am I still finding this, something that I want to wake up in the morning for? If not, just, I suppose it's about letting the client know what you need for it to be an invigorating job, one where you feel really, motivated to keep them moving forward. That's right, Louise. You can fire them. I did have a client once who was a paediatric speech path. He was great, and I actually went into his office as well as did virtual stuff for him because his filing was terrible, terrible, terrible. But he was in Melbourne and it was all fine and dandy and he was lovely. And he got to the point where, he was using a good system to manage all of his clients. We got one in that was specifically for speech paths, so we got a CRM set up for that. Better systems in place for, term payments and forms and all that sort of stuff. And I knew that he was heading very quickly towards needing someone to be at his front desk because it was a practice, obviously. And one day I went into the office to do some work and he wanted to sit down with me. He looked so nervous. I must be such a terrifying person. And he had to break it to me that he was going to be getting somebody in-house. And I was so excited for him because to me that was success. It was taking him from this, new practice that had someone who was just helping him every few, hours, a few hours a week, to someone who needed to have somebody on site because he was busy. And to me, that was a successful job. I was so, so pleased. You should have seen the relief on his face when I smiled, because sometimes that is the direction that they do need to take. And if you can help a client get to that point where they have to have somebody on site because they're so, so busy, then they're always going to remember you, and you just maintain that relationship if you can and keep networking. Mission accomplished. Number 7, you can manage multiple requests and clients. All of your clients, whether they care to admit it or not, know that you have more than one client. But at the end of the day, that's not their problem. That's your problem because that's the sort of business you've set up. They don't need to hear about it. I don't need to hear about all of the other clients that my plumber is servicing. I just want to know that he's going to be helping me out and that I'm pretty damn important. So working that out can be quite hard, and that is done clearly by setting those boundaries and expectations early on. So if you've allocated set time for them or set number of hours, whenever those hours might be, they can be hours that the client has no idea about. But, for example, I've got clients that I do newsletters for every month. It doesn't matter what time of the day I develop them so long as they're sent off at the right time. And when they are, the client is really happy because as far as they know, the job they've asked for has been done and it's been done on time. And any time that they've contacted me for content for the newsletters, I've said, yep, no worries, that's great, we'll add that to the newsletter. Very, very simple. But managing all of these clients and multiple requests can be a lot harder than you would first think. So again, it's about putting systems in place so that you can confidently let that new prospect know that you can fit them in and that they will be important. You can work out systems so that your timelines and your availability are clear. Okay, so making sure that you know what's available to you in terms of time, but that doesn't mean, I have had some people say, my client wanted me to share my diary with them so they could see what I'm doing all day, every day. And that to me is a slave. That's crazy stuff. Personally, I struggle with letting people know exactly what hour I'm going to be working on something. I really don't like to be tied down. So for someone who, if somebody asks me, okay, I want to be in on your Google Calendar, oh my Lord, they'd have to pay me a lot. I can't even put a figure to it. It's just, no, not my ideal client. And I don't really know I mean, unless you're a full-time employee and they want to know what your diary looks like for work, fine, but you're just not. You're not. You are, I don't get access to my plumber's diary either. I'm going to use my plumber as my example today. Just stuff like that does my head in. So don't be a slave, but be helpful. Louise said, I asked them to pay me for working at midnight, which I do often. But do you work at midnight because they forced you to, or because you've decided that that's the hour that you want to work? It suits me. So you can't charge them extra for it. Yeah. It's convenient for you. And it's S-U-I-T-S, by the way. Sweet me. So yeah, you're working at hours that are suitable for you to get the job done. Most of what we do, unless it's scheduled work, can be done at its own time. I mean, even if I get someone to do graphic design for me, I'm not going to know exactly what hours they're working on it, unless they call me and they say, you know, I'm working on it this morning at 10 o'clock. I'm not going to know. I want to know when it's going to be delivered, definitely. But, you know, that's about it. So number 8, you are consistent. This is something to alleviate stress. One of the things that every client is coming to you with is an element of stress. And as you've all expressed earlier, letting go, delegating, knowing what to give up first is causing them a lot of stress. So if you can be really consistent in your delivery, delivering a product and a service that is consistent, they know when to expect what you're going to deliver, they know how it's going to be delivered, it's going to help reduce their stress. It's kind of like, have you ever been to a workshop that's pretty much an all-day workshop and there's no agenda, and you don't know what time the coffee breaks and the lunch breaks are going to be, and you don't know what's happening after the break. You just have this one paragraph describing what you're going to learn that day. You're actually a lot more uncomfortable, and some people do it to make you uncomfortable, but you're a lot more uncomfortable than if you have an agenda. If you have an agenda, okay, for example, at AAVIP, it's great. I know that in the morning I'm going to hear these 2 presenters talk about blah, blah, blah. We're going to have a break, and then there'll be this presenter followed by this one, and then it'll be lunch. And I know what's coming up. I have no idea what they're going to say, but I know what the breakdown of the day is. And that just gives me confidence, and it reduces a little bit of anxiety. So if you can deliver your product in the same kind of manner, where you're consistent, they know when, where, how, you're going to make it so that they're feeling a lot less stressed. And that's a really, really great thing that you can give. Now, you also need to be consistent with your branding and their branding, especially if you're representing them, your delivery, your pricing, the way you communicate, and your timeline. Can you see how that would be really helpful for a client? Cool? Good. Okay. When I was writing Baba Boom, and I was asking business owners about what they want from a VA more than anything, the word trust came up a lot, the confidentiality. And one of the things that somebody pointed out, which I thought was really apt, was that because of social media, we're all sharing way too much. We really, really are. And, you know, if I went, this morning I had to go and pick up my husband because he left the other car at the mechanic. I don't need to post about everything. I try not to post about absolutely everything because, you know, it gets a bit much. But because we can, it's very scary for clients to share the baby that they have, the business, the behind the scenes, the reality of their business, that boring stuff. But how things tick away. Some people are really, really possessive about how their systems work because they're working so beautifully. And some are really, really possessive about it because they're not working so well and they're embarrassed. So until you instill some trust in them that you are going to be looking after their baby and keeping their confidentiality, they're going to resist 100%. So you need to have confidentiality clauses in place and, you know, privacy policy and all that sort of stuff. But you need to lead by example, and that is if you are on social media or if you're on any forums, you need to make sure that you're always maintaining confidentiality, because the second you start saying something about somebody else in business on a social media platform, especially naming them if, you know, it's not to the point where it's ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? Like if you have a situation where someone owes you $1 gazillion, you've tried absolutely everything and you just crack it, well, I'm not going to hold that against you. But if you're sitting there and you're revealing bits and pieces and just enough information to make a client nervous, then other businesses are going to see it and they're never going to trust you. I know a couple of VAs online who I'm concerned about because I don't know if they're going to get any work from that medium because people wouldn't trust them. And it's not because they're doing it on purpose, they're just not thinking. Now, this bit is about just getting it, and you are only going to get it being what the client needs, and getting what the client's goals are and what excites them and where they want to take things and what's driving them crazy. You know, when you're sitting with someone or you're talking to someone on the phone and they get it, until you can prove to them that you get it, they're going to feel a little bit apprehensive. They're going to feel really, really relieved when they know that you get what they want. And the only way you're going to get it is to ask the questions, fill those gaps, and communicate in, you know, yes, you're being professional, but be passionate as well. You know, if I have a client who is really keen to write a book, it's all in their head, but they don't know how to get it out, and they're really apprehensive about it, and then we have a brainstorm about the first steps that they can take. If I show that I'm just as excited as they are, then they can see that I get it. You know, I get how big this is to them. And for them, that is worth its weight in gold. So you're always putting yourself in their shoes. So these are those 10 points. If you have them up on your wall somewhere, wherever you're communicating with a prospect, or even when you're maintaining your communication or your relationship with an existing client, have a look at those 10 points. Think about what it would feel like for you. And I want you to put this, like, picture this in your head right now. Can I firstly ask, have any of you used the VA or are currently using a VA? If you can write have or currently. No? Have? I'm assuming that's a have. No? Yes? Have? No? So no one currently is? Yes. So Jody, you are? Yes. Okay, awesome. So for the rest of you, and Jody, you can think about the VA that you've got, think about getting that person, getting a VA, someone who you know has a certain type of skill set that you need, and about getting them to help you. Okay, what do you need to hear and see from them for you to confidently start that relationship and start sending work their way? Because you're not going to just do it because they said they can do it. It just doesn't work that way. What are your fears? Your fears are most likely to be very similar to what your own client's fears would be. And then compound, the clients are going to be compounded because they don't know what software and what collaboration tools are available to them. So add that on for them as an extra fear. So if a VA showed the following skills to you, would you feel more confident in taking that leap? So think about, can you all think about a service that you could get support within your business that might make you more effective? Yep. I'll make you all wake up and answer questions. There will be no going to sleep. Quite a few, Jody. Yeah. Social media. Yep. Definitely. A good one. Keep thinking about them. So if you were to hand that sort of thing over, and social media is a great one, because with social media, whether it's representing your business or your client, so if it's representing your clients, you're talking about getting a subcontractor on board, and that can be just, you have the same tiers pretty much. If you're getting someone to do your social media, you're getting your own VA on board. So just remember that in terms of those relationships are a little bit different, not hugely, but a little bit. So if that person came to you and they showed you that they've got the skills to do the social media, they're available now and into the future to do your social media for you. They're very honest with you about what they can and can't do, about what their timelines are, about if something goes wrong, oh my God, I posted on the wrong group and now they've blocked me. You know, wouldn't you rather them tell you that than not? I'd love it if, if they said, oh my God, I've done a wrong thing and I've blocked it. But what I did was I emailed them and told them I was really, really sorry and now it's all good and dandy, or I found another group that's even better. You know, something that has a solution attached to it. They're a great communicator. I want to know that they're going to keep in touch with me and let me know what's going on. They're always professional. They've got structures in place, so I know that they are not going to forget me. They're excited when things work well for me on the social media side of things. I know that they can manage this work as well as their other clients' work. So if they can manage my work and other people's work, they're going to be in business a lot longer. They're consistent with their delivery, so the way that they're presenting themselves to me and also the way they're presenting me to my audience on social media is consistent. They are confidential about the fact that they're working for me and any information that I provide to them, and they get it. They get what I'm doing and where I'm heading in my business. Would you feel pretty confident taking that lead? Are there any gaps for you? Anyone? Jodie feels confident. Lisa feels confident. Robbie feels confident. Are there any gaps for you at all? Is there anything else that the VA would need to show you for you to go, yeah, let's bring it on? And you know what? The VA hasn't even mentioned price to you yet. It is, Rachel, it's all about communication. So every one of these points, you have to communicate it to the client. You know, the second you stop communicating with your client is the second that their stress levels increase or they forget you. Yeah, so you do your homework first, Lisa. That's exactly it, and that's, you know, an extra step. Really, really like it. If before you respond to a job lead or before you have a meeting with a client, definitely do your homework. It's the same as when you go for any kind of interview. No, we try to think that it's different, but it's not. The final relationship in terms of obligations and money is different, but that first interview process is the same. You go to a job interview, you're interviewing them and they're interviewing you. And you need to show them that you've done a little bit of homework. And the reason why you're doing homework is twofold. One, to see whether they are the right client for you, because it's a bit silly to go in there and go, oh, you do horse racing. Oh my God, I'm completely against horse racing. How awkward. We're now in the middle of lunch. This is not ideal, right? Really not cool. Okay, it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. But also to do the homework so that you know what questions to ask them, and it gives them the confidence that you give a damn and that you actually care about their business, and you're heading towards the 10th point, which is that you get it. Jodie, yeah, if they can provide a testimonial or some case studies, that's also really, really handy. If it was for social media, I'd love to see a case study. Or yeah, a testimonial from another client. I don't need to see a resume. VAs are still sending out resumes. I don't need to see a resume, but a targeted testimonial or targeted case study would be really handy. Yeah, it's very good. Add that to your list. Make sure it's targeted. Cool. Any other questions? Now, I added this in before, but I know this question came up right at the start. So start thinking of any other questions you have. But right at the start, Robbie mentioned that some clients just can't let go. If you address all those, and I love point number 11 that I'm going to make it, is to provide a case study or testimonial, and you've looked at all 11 points, and the client's still not letting go, there's probably two things that I could think about. One would be that they're not sure about the systems available to them, the technology behind it, and that's where you do ask some more questions about how they envision that working and what the gaps are for them. So if they say, okay, I really want to let go of my social media, but I just don't have time, and you go, okay, tell me more about that. What do you see the process as looking like? And you'll probably get a blank from them. Oh, I've got to sit down and I've got to write this, and this. And if you say, okay, well, what if I got someone to give you a quick buzz on the phone, maybe half an hour chat, and then they write up some content for you because they're a really awesome copywriter, and that's kind of what they do. And you can check what they've written, send it through, and then off we go. Would that work for you? It might not, but it's about having those conversations to find out what is holding them back, what that big brick wall is that's in front of them. If it's bigger than that, if it's something where you go, okay, well, I'm not sure where we can start chipping it away at that, then try and get them to speak to a good coach. That would probably be my main thing. So whether it's the technology behind it, it's the how-to, or otherwise they just can't get their head in the right space, they're probably the main triggers, I would think. Can you think of any other triggers that might cause the client to not be able to let go after you've done the 11 points? I can't. If you can think of them, let me know, and we'll add them to our next webinar. Do you have any other questions that I can help you with, or does this help you move forward with responding to clients or prospects, and to be, even to maintain those relationships with existing clients? Does this help? Yeah? Cool, I'm glad. Good. If you have any other questions, I'm really glad to hear that. I'd love it if you can use that information. If you want the PowerPoint presentation, or if you want me just to type up those 10 points in a quick PDF, I'll write that down now. I'll do that. PDF. 11 points. Do I have to give credit, Jodie? For prospects. I'm writing that down, and I'll send that to Susan to send on to you guys. Thanks, Jodie. For me, because of the type of work I do, I see people responding to job leads all the time, and they're not covering these areas even slightly. And to cover these areas does involve multiple forms of communication. So if a job lead comes through and they say, I want that initial contact by email, well, fine, you're kind of a little bit hamstrung. But you can send emails that cover a fair few points. If they say phone or email, you need to do both. To cover these points, you need to do both. You might not have that full-on conversation the first time you speak to them on the phone. You might ask a few more, simple questions, and then say to them, look, I can definitely address that stuff. Do you have time to talk about it now, or do you want me to send you through an email or schedule another time for me to go through it with you? Just respecting the client's time. But I see a lot of people who will just send a generic email out saying, hi, I love being a VA, I this, and they don't find out anything about the client, and they don't give the client confidence. So if you can use this to turn that around, that would be really, really brilliant. I would love to stay connected with you. Some of you I know quite well, some of you I don't. So if I don't, please connect with me. I love virtual assistants. I'm a little bit of a virtual assistant junkie. It's kind of my thing. So if you want to follow me on the different social media platforms there, come along and introduce yourself on them. I won't block your spam, don't worry. If you have any other questions, email me. I didn't put my phone number up on there because my ideal average client doesn't always use the phone, because I really, really don't like the phone. It's a terrible thing, but I used to be a receptionist and I think I've filled my quota for 3 lifetimes. But email, I'm really, really good with. So if you have any questions at all, I'm honest, if nothing else. I would love to stay in touch. And I really thank you for your attention today. I know you're paying attention because you answered my questions, and I really, really appreciate it. And again, I hope you find today's information useful for you and for the growth of your business. And thank you so much, Susan, for asking me to come along today.
Thank you so much, Rosie, for presenting today. I got a lot out of that, and I'm sure all of you did as well. So thank you very much for presenting again today.
My pleasure.